Okay, welcome to my new YouTube channel. So if you're interested in souped up sheet boxes, this is the channel for you. So for those of you who don't know, I am Cole Considine on TikTok. I've gained nearly 50,000 followers along building this Lambo killer laser. For those of you I've dragged over from TikTok, the motor is finally going in. So this is a fully built Mazda B6T and it is going in my 1985 KC Ford laser gear. If you're wondering what turbo I'm putting on this beast, if you haven't noticed off TikTok, I'm a big supporter of the Booster Boys YouTube channel. So this is the same turbo they use on their EK Civic, on Carl's EK Civic, the hatch. So this turbo is capable of making 800 wheel horsepower. So it's a billet wheel ball bearing turbo GTX 3582R. And yes, I know it's an eBay turbo. I know it's made in China. I know it's not a Garrett. But these have been proven to make some steam. Okay, and if you think I'm bolting this bad boy on a stock motor, don't worry. This is a fully built motor. So it's got kelford race cams, bigger valves, intake, exhaust, full port and polish job, wisco forged 1mm oversized pistons, manley H-beam rods, billet oil pump. It's got the whole lot. Yeah, ATI harmonic balancer, lightened flywheel and Xtreme clutch, 8's racing timing belt, toda adjustable cam gears, and a lot more. I'm just struggling to remember it all. Even a big fat Mishimoto R-line intercooler. And no expenses spared for the gearbox either. So it's got an Mfactory helical LSD diff, 50-50 split, and a mod plate. Still on stock gear sets, but it's been refreshed with new diff bearings and new seals. So she should be good. You know Mazda gearboxes, these are not the strongest things in the world. So the shafts like to split at high RPM and shred third gear or break the diff. That's why I put the mod plate in to help hold the shafts together, and that's why I replaced the diff with an 800 horsepower capable one. But the box itself on stock gear sets is still only capable of around 400 wheel horsepower, which that is the goal for this build. And to help with the box, I've got a stage 1 Xtreme clutch kit. So it's still an organic clutch kit, and it's going to help with the gearbox by not shocking it to death and shattering the gears. So that's why I'm not running a puck clutch, because it would be harsh on the gearbox. You might be thinking 400 horsepower isn't a lot, but this car only weighs 890 kilos, and 400 horsepower at the wheels is gonna feel insane. Without further ado, let's get all this beautiful stuff in this beautiful engine bay. Let's go. Okay, now I've got lift points on for the engine crane, and yes, I will be taking these off when it's in the car. But before I go too much further, I've got to clean this alternator up and paint her up, make it look smick like the rest of the motor, because once the motor's in the car, you cannot get to the alternator. You have to undo the engine mount and jack up the motor to pull out the alternator. So let's get that smashed out. And look at that, the alternator is all painted. She's just drying. Now I can demask her and put her on the motor. Looking fresh. Shout out to Mfactory and VHT paint. Good stuff. Mint. I've just got the alternator bracket all painted and she should be ready to bolt the alternator all on. Okay, now have a look at that. doesn't that alternate look smick on there? She's all unwrapped, mounted up. Just got an old belt on there for now, but we'll get a new one. But she's all good. But yeah, I've just got to go and find a few little things. Got to find all my motor mount bolts, all the little grommets that go into my firewall, and yeah, some of my transmission bolts. Just got to find stuff. And as you can see, it's everywhere. Literally. I tried to keep it in order as much as possible, but you know, this is just what happens everywhere. But how good does that engine bay look? And that intercooler. But another thing we can install is the sway bar. That's all painted, ready to go on. Got all the brackets all painted, and I've got some brand new Nolthane bushings to go in that. So we'll get that on. Okay, finally got the sway bar on after a fair bit of messing around. Had to go and find all the bolts and had to replace one bolt because if you're from TikTok, you may remember that this nut in here snapped off inside, and that is why there's these two access holes here. Just makes it easier. So yeah, got that replaced with a nice stainless steel bolt and nut, and that's still a factory one. Yeah, had to go and find all the bolts. But got all nice new Nolthane bushes in there. And she's all bolted up, ready to go. Just look at her, finally coming together. Okay, next on the list is bolting up this clutch cable to the firewall. Luckily, I don't have to find the bolts. Already found them earlier. I should have labelled and tagged all the bolts. I was going to, but I didn't. But whatever. I'm still yet to find where the grommets for the firewall have gone. I've got this bag here, which is all plugs and that for all the little holes and the chassis rails and that. But the grommets aren't in there, so I don't know where I put them, but we'll find them. Okay, so I've got the clutch cable all bolted up to the firewall. Still got to find them grommets. Would you look at that? Finally found them little pain in the ass grommets. They were sitting in the passenger's footwell in a bag under some stuff. Last place I would have thought to look before I looked everywhere. So that took me a good hour. But anyway, they're on. Now just got to work on finding all the bolts for the gearbox and the motor mounts and the intake manifold. Should have bagged and tagged them. Lesson learnt. Okay, before I put the intake manifold on for the final time, I better show you the intake side port job. As you can see, she's pretty good. Not polished because the intake, don't need to polish it. Helps mix the fuel and air a bit better. So it's just left rough sanding marks. But no, she's looking good. Got my cometic gasket kit and my intake manifold gasket. Look at her. Just sit her on. There she go. Like that. Press her all on. Look at that, looking mint.
What we do here is go back.
Okay, and there we have it. The intake manifold is bolted on and all torqued up to spec. A little bit messing around, but nah, she's on, she's well and good. Got the motor on the engine crane, about to get the gearbox on and the flywheel and the clutch. Gonna set a time lapse. Let's get to it. Okay, the gearbox is finally on. So I've got all the main bolts for the gearbox all in. They're all right. Still need to just find a few little bolts that connect the oil pan to the gearbox, but she's all good. Have a look at that. Okay, just a bit of stuff off camera. I got most of the engine mount points on. I've got one painted sitting on the tree drying. Got some sensors in there and there. Yeah, and just cleaned a few bolts. I still just gotta clean up them engine mount bolts for all the actual mounts. And then she's ready, once I bolt the engine mount that goes on here, ready to go in the car. Okay, so I got the last engine mount bracket bolted on. Still got to throw on the starter motor. Just got to go and find all them bolts and clean them up. And then I'll get that starter motor thrown on there. Sorry about the time lapse cutting short, my phone went flat, but it is the next morning and have a look at this thing. She is finally in. Just look at that. She's looking smeek. That turbo just looks so good. I need to get some drive shafts in because without the drive shafts in, the wheel bearings are separating and I can't roll the car because the only thing holding the wheel on is the brakes. But yeah, they're just over there. So I just need to paint them up and put them in. But the motor is officially in. Okay, so I've got the drive shafts all in. They're all painted, looking smick. Just need to torque them down. But it's good to roll around the shed. But I might leave it here. Still a lot more updates and work to come on this thing. Got wiring, turbo manifolds, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, we'll leave it here for today. Don't forget to go and follow me TikTok if you're not from there, at Cole Considine. And me Insta, if you don't know, is that red Ford Laser. And don't forget to drop a like and a sub if you want to see some people get chopped in a Ford Laser. See yous.